Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me here this afternoon as we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic here in Erie County. So today I am pleased that Governor Wolf has announced that Erie County will be among the counties in the Commonwealth who will be moved to the yellow phase to reopen with restrictions starting on May 8th. Now, I'll come back to that in just a few minutes, but I do want to thank all of you, the residents of Erie County, the businesses of Erie County, who've helped us to get to this point by following the guidelines of staying home, of washing hands frequently, of wearing a mask, of keeping that physical distance of at least 6 feet from anyone who does not live in your home. Regarding our numbers today, we have one new positive case of COVID-19 here in Erie County to report, and this individual resides in Zone 1, which can be found again on our cumulative cases map by zone at eriecountypa.gov. That brings our total to 88 cumulative positives with 1,892 negatives, and we now have 64 people who have recovered from COVID-19. Crawford County has 19 positive cases with 689 negatives. McKean has 6 reported positive cases with 167 negatives, and Warren has 1 case with 175 negatives. Chautauqua County has 36 cases and 3 deaths, and Ashtabula County now has 126 cases and 15 deaths. The state total is at 46,971 cases and 2,354 deaths. The Erie County Department of Health continues its contact tracing, which we have been doing now for 7 weeks. We are looking to increase our capacity for contact tracing in case we do see a spike, an increase in our local cases once we move to the yellow phase. Contact tracing works in reducing the spread of COVID-19. We in Erie County have proven this, and I am very, very proud of that team, as I am of all of those who have gotten us to this point. And now I know you're all wondering what it means exactly for Erie County to move to the yellow phase on May 8th, 1 week from today. I still have many questions too, as do all of us working on this pandemic. But I can assure you that we are working very hard to prepare for reopening. Our environmental team continues to make field visits and is currently working with the guidelines from the state to assist our businesses as they look to reopen in Erie County. Some specifics in the guidance involve the businesses that are not permitted to be open, and they include gyms, spas, hair salons, nail salons, massage therapy, casinos, and theaters. Restaurants and bars remain permitted for takeout and delivery only. The gatherings of people are limited to 25 people total. And all businesses that do open must adhere to the guidance for social distancing, masking, and cleaning. Guidance we have available so far can be found on our business resources page at eriecountypa.gov, and we expect that this guidance will only be enhanced as we go forward, and we will get that on our website as soon as we have it. I ask everyone to please continue to take precautions, though, when you leave home, starting next Friday, when the stay-at-home order is lifted. Remember to continue to keep your physical distance of 6 feet from others. Continue to wear a mask or some sort of face covering, not only over your mouth, but over your mouth and your nose. Practice that good personal hygiene of washing your hands frequently and washing them for 20 seconds or using hand sanitizer. And use your good judgment. If you don't feel comfortable going into a particular business for any reason, then stay away from that business. Do what you need to do to protect yourself, to protect your families and your loved ones. For those businesses permitted to reopen under the yellow phase, please encourage your employees to continue to work remotely whenever possible. Follow business and building safety orders for in-person operations. Limit your gatherings to fewer than 25 people, and those people should be 6 feet apart. encourage curbside and delivery over in-person retail operations, and follow the CDC and Department of Health guidances for social distancing and cleaning of your facilities. Monitor public health instructions and adjust your business appropriately. The last thing that we would want to happen is for us to see a spike in the number of people infected with COVID-19 and have to go back into the red phase and to shut everything back down. Like so many of you, I am eager to see our schools and our gyms and our indoor recreation centers reopen this year at some point. I feel terrible for all of the graduates who didn't get a proper end to their school year and a proper celebration for all of their hard work over these school years. I feel terrible for our local businesses who have had to furlough employees or even potentially to have shut down their business indefinitely. I feel terrible for all of the families who've been separated from one another for such a long time. We now have an opportunity to start the process of rebuilding Erie County's economy again. Your partnership in doing this properly by following guidelines and proceeding with caution will be the key to success and to future growth for all of us. I look forward to shining a spotlight on those businesses who we see setting the great example. I believe in Erie County and our residents that we will do the right thing to assure that we can get back up and running. I'd like to share with you something that is effective today that's also a good news story, and that's that we have provided free Wi-Fi access now at all Erie County public library locations. Eric Friedman, Erie County's Director of Information Technology, has teamed with his team has partnered with the Erie County Public Library and local vendors to expand the reach of Wi-Fi networks to be accessed from anywhere in the library's parking lots or within approximately 100 feet of the building. We believe this initiative will help many of our families, many of our residents who do not have the technology for work or school in their own homes. Again, it is imperative that patrons using this service observe the guidelines to keep 6-foot distance from anyone who does not live in your own home with you and to wear a mask when you are at our library facilities. And these guidelines will be enforced at our property. This is not an opportunity to congregate, but it's an opportunity to find free Wi-Fi to do the work that you need to do. So thank you to everybody who was involved on this project. It's just a great service for our community, and I thank each and every one of them. And I thank you for doing your part, again, to slow the spread of COVID-19 in Erie County. And at this point now, I would like to turn it over to the media for questions. And today we will start with Erie News Now.
Good afternoon. Question for you regarding moving now to this yellow phase. Certainly wonderful news there for an awful lot of businesses. For those, though, that can't reopen, for those gyms, those casinos, those spas, those salons, what's your message to those business owners? And is there any word on when they may be able to reopen like so many of the businesses around them?
So my understanding is that those businesses most likely will open when we move to the green phase. And I have no idea when we will reach that phase. We've got to get through this yellow phase first. And obviously very, very disappointing, I know, for many businesses who struggle. They're struggling right now and they have bills to pay, and this is not good news for those businesses. So these decisions are made on the state level, looking at a number of different factors, and that is a decision that we are going to live by here in Erie County. But to those businesses, I ask you to reach out to our economic development partners, whether it be the Chamber, the Erie County Redevelopment Authority, or a myriad of other organizations who could potentially find ways to assist you, and that with the funds that may be out there from the federal or the state law or some of the changes that have been made through some of the federal stimulus packages put out there. But obviously a very, very difficult time for all businesses, but even more so now for those who cannot open. Talk Erie?
Yes, good afternoon, Kathy. It's Joel Natale. Just go a little bit deeper on contact tracing. Of course, we've been seeing that for the last 7 weeks. talk about our capacity and explain what you would describe as a spike that would need more contact tracing. Can you flesh it out for us?
Sure. So as you've seen over these 7 weeks, we've been doing the contact tracing, and most days we have maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 cases. I think we had one day that had close to 7. I don't have that number in front of me. Depending on the case, it can be very simple or it can be very, very complex. We've had individuals who've had up to, I think, close to 27 or more contacts. And then we've had other individuals who've just had a handful of contacts, very easy to trace. And so this is very much a detective work. So once you find that person has been positive, their test comes back, then there is this interview process which can be quite lengthy. All of us, if we had to sit down today and think, okay, my test came back, when did I feel my first symptoms? Okay, then you were probably contagious for up to 48 hours before those first symptoms. What did you do during that whole time, and who did you see? And interestingly, sometimes we find out more things as the days go by and as we reach out to their contacts and they remember something else. So it really is, it's a investigation, and it's something that has a lot of different variables to it. So we know if people start moving around more, and people, they're not staying at home, and businesses are more businesses are open, and there's just more interactions with more people in our community for each one of us. We know the virus is here, and we believe we're going to see spread happen. So as that happens, we want to make sure that we have enough people to do that investigation when it happens. So when someone comes positive, the sooner we can reach that person, the sooner we can do that interview, and then the sooner we can get out and contact those people that they have been in contact with and tell them they must be quarantined now for 14 days, then hopefully we can stop the spread from that case and get that person who's positive in isolation by themselves until they are 72 hours past their symptoms. So that's the work of contact tracing. Now, these other counties that are in our group of moving to yellow, not a single one of them have a health department, and there's only been contact tracing going on in those counties for about a week. And we've been doing this work for 7 weeks. We are the most populated county going to yellow phase, I think because of the fact that we have a health department and we've shown that we can do this work. But we really truly believe that we need to build out more people for this. For a couple reasons, and a lot of them I just talked about, because we've got to be ready. We've got to be able to jump on these cases as quickly as we can, get to the people who need to be quarantined to stop the spread in our community if it starts to happen.
So just a quick follow-up. So would you be reimbursed from the state or the federal government to pay for, hiring 30 or 40 more contact tracers?
Well, we're looking at that right now. We have some funds that have been brought available to us from the federal government stimulus, and we've got some funding that was put forward from County Council early on. We have some other grants that we're applying for. So we're looking at all avenues for this, and we think there's some community partners out there that can help us. They have employees who may be a good fit for expanding our contact tracing efforts. And I think the other thing that has to happen, and this is something we've been talking a lot about, the people that we put on contact tracing, the people that we've been putting on our enforcement compliance division, they all have other jobs that they do every single day that they haven't been doing. So we've got to get some of those people back to doing the jobs. A perfect example would be in our contact tracing. Those are a lot of our medical nursing staff, and they do STD clinics, for example. And the last thing we want to do is see some kind of a STD epidemic in our community. So there is other work that some of those people have got to get back to, and so we've got to make sure that we have some people who can fill in when they have to do that other very important work. Jet TV.
Yeah, hi, Kathy. It's Samir. Definitely positive news hearing we're moving into that yellow phase. Obviously, some disappointments there with the hair salons, etc. My question right now, do you know if dog groomers, does that fall under the same category? I've received a lot of questions regarding that.
I don't really know that, and this is part of our frustration in county government is we wanted a list, sort of like we got at the beginning, like which businesses are allowed and which ones are not. So we have some questions, and we're going to go back to the state with those questions. We've gotten a lot of questions about dog groomers over the whole course of this time, and so we will be looking into that, but there should be no dog groomers open definitely before May 8th, and I hope to have those answers within probably by early next week about some real specific businesses that we are unclear of right at this moment.
And then just another question. Obviously, as we move into that yellow phase, people are going to come into contact more and more. Is there a fear that we will see a spike in cases?
We believe it's almost inevitable that we are going to see a spike in cases, and that's why we're looking at what kind of teams do we need to build out to be able to quickly react to any cases that will come forward. And but it's inevitable. We've had 88 cases with a stay-at-home order, and businesses basically shut down. So what's going to happen when we don't have a stay-at-home order and people are freer to move around and businesses reopen? So the weather's going to get better and better. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. We've got our marinas opening, our campgrounds opening, and our golf courses opening this weekend. And so as more and more people are out and about, and if they're not wearing a mask, and if they're not staying 6-foot distance, it's going to just increase the chances that somebody's going to pick up COVID-19 and be diagnosed as positive. So we definitely think we're going to see a spike.
Thanks.
Erie Times News.
Hi, Kathy. The state said that it had developed testing and contact tracing plans that informed this decision. So did Erie County receive specific benchmarks from the state in terms of testing? And is this going to work well without widespread testing?
So we have not gotten anything specific from the state on this, and testing still seems to be something that all of us, have always had a concern about. I just, watched the press conference with the governor and Secretary Levine, and they talked about they're going to use PEMA to distribute more testing to the counties. So we want to know what that looks like. Again, the guidance from the state has been limited at this point, but we hope to see a lot more guidance when it comes to testing, because even though there's adequate testing today for people who have symptoms in Erie County, again, if those people increase in great numbers, and if we want to truly do testing when people even have the mildest of symptoms to try to catch positive cases early, we need more testing. We need more testing locations. We need more testing in places where people have struggled to get to a test, whether they don't have a doctor, whether they don't have health insurance, whether they don't have a car. Some of those really limiting factors that keep people from maybe getting tests who need to have tests. So we're working on a plan for how we can be part of this solution, and we're talking to the state about this. We've been told that they have capacity at their labs on the state level. So how can we be part of the solution in terms of increasing testing in Erie County? And that may look very different than what we have had up to this point. But again, we have to get some guidance from the state on that, and we're waiting for that.
Thanks, Kathy. And then I just wanted to follow up briefly on one of the previous questions. I had seen in the release from the state that they said any business that's not explicitly ordered to stay closed under the yellow phase can open. Is that your understanding, or are you waiting for a specific list before we say that for sure?
Well, that was indicated. I also read that, and so those are some of the questions we have for the state on some specific businesses that seem to be maybe a little bit in the gray area, but it sounds like that if you're not on a specific list, you're going to be able to open, and you can stay within the 25 people gathering in your facility. So that also, and also when they're in your facility, they need to be 6 feet apart, they need to be wearing a mask, all of those type of things. So those guidelines are still in place, even if you're a business that is allowed to open.
Thank you.
Erie News Now.
Hi, could you talk to me about what the next week will look like from a county perspective as you try to get ready for all of this? And then as you talk about things you're still looking for clarification from Harrisburg on, what are those 2 or 3 biggest things as you try to make all of this happen within a week?
So, of course, we've kind of known this might be coming, and we've been trying to prepare. But I think our biggest thing is, the 3 things. What do we do about testing? We need guidance from from the state on that. And we need to see how we can be a partner and really help to make testing what it needs to be in our community. Contact tracing I've already pretty much addressed, and how we're really trying to build that out. And then the last piece is what we call our enforcement or compliance division. We are looking at, again, people who've been doing that work. Now they really need to go back and do some of the work that they always do. A perfect example is these campgrounds opening up. Every year they have to get a license from us because we have to check their water supply and their sewage issues, and that we have inspectors who do this every single year. And because the campgrounds were closed and they didn't know they were opening, I don't believe we've even done any of those yet. So, or maybe we're just beginning to here in the last couple days. But the people who would normally go do that have been the people on this other division, this enforcement division. So we're going to have to transition some people back to their normal work. Restaurant inspections is another area that we have to do too, and we haven't really been doing that because those people have been working on COVID-19. So we're going to have to build out some people in that enforcement and compliance division so that we can again serve our businesses and help them to do things the right way. And so we are going to be doing that, also building up that team. Talk Erie.
Yes, I'm reading from the Governor Wolf's order here, and he talks about that it'll be not until Monday when they release additional guidance for businesses permitted to reopen in the 24 counties. You had conversations this week with DCED. What are they waiting for?
I don't really know. I think they're still trying to figure things out. I don't really know. I have to tell you that when I found out yesterday in our conversations that we were not going to see the guidance today, that it probably weren't going to see it till Monday, I was very, very disappointed and really frustrated. I have a team that's been working really hard for 7 weeks, doing all of this type of work. We have been, I think, the best example, honestly, I would say in the state, of how you do this right. And we want to do it right, but we do need the state as our partner to give us the guidance. So it's frustrating, it's disappointing, but we will continue to rise to the occasion as we always do. And when we get this guidance on Monday, we'll be there to answer questions as quickly as we can and to get it up on our website. You know, we've been inundated, of course, with calls, and we don't have all the answers right now, and we want to have the answers. That's the frustrating part. We want to be able to tell a business, this is exactly what you need to do. This is, yes, you can open. No, you absolutely cannot open. And we want to be there for them. So it is very frustrating for us not to have all of that information at our hands right now. But we will wait until Monday or as soon as it comes out, and then we will move forward.
Quick follow-up. Do you anticipate that you'll have to gear up on just guiding businesses on how to do reopening safely? I know you've been doing this all along through enforcement, but it sounds like you're just going to get slammed with phone calls come Monday.
We've been getting slammed with phone calls, and you know, every time something changes down at the state, we get slammed with phone calls. So we're looking at how we can bring in some more call takers, people who can actually at least take the messages in and then get them out to the people who can give the answers. So we are looking at all of that. As again, we want to respond to these businesses. We are their lifeline for many of them. And so we're going to continue to do that type of work that we've been doing. I think I answered your question. I've kind of lost track of what the beginning of your question was.
Yes, thank you.
But anyway, that's what we're trying to do. Jet TV.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I just want to bring up really fast. So I know Garden Center that opened up today, and they said that they received a waiver from the Commonwealth, the Governor Tom Wolf's administration. However, the county health department suggested or requested them to not open. So can you provide some light on that?
We have gotten no complaints today, and what we do is we follow up on complaints. So we've gotten no complaints of any garden center open today that I'm aware of, and so we've had nothing to follow up on today.
Perfect, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Erie Times News?
Yeah, Kathy, you've mentioned that there are some businesses that maybe fall into a gray area where it's not clear where they're going to land in the yellow zone. Can you talk about just what are some of the categories of businesses that you consider to be in that gray area? And then specifically, do we know whether garden centers will be able to open under this yellow zone?
So we were told garden centers will be able to open next Friday on May 8th. So that I was told specifically because I asked that specific question. I think the dog groomers is maybe a gray area. If hair salons can't open, can a dog's hair salon be open? You know, there was no, maybe that's one of the gray areas that we need to find out about. I've had a number of calls from churches about, you know, can we open up? Of course, there is this limit of 25 people. Almost every church I know of would have more than 25 people in their congregation. And so these are some of the things we want to get some clarification from the state on. And there's a few others that have just asked us some questions. And so, you know, there was a question the other day, are libraries allowed to open or are they not? And again, I don't think that's absolutely clear to us. And of course, not every county runs libraries. I would say the vast majority of counties, libraries are a separate entity, but here in Erie County, they are part of county government. So we have a particularly vested interest in knowing should our libraries be thinking about reopening or not. Obviously, we can make our own decision there because they are under county's government's purview, but we're trying to align with the state. So those are just some of the questions that we have going forward.
Thank you.
Erie News Now, do you have any final questions?
I do. One last one for you. Regarding this very gradual rollout of plans from Harrisburg, where 2 weeks ago it was announced that we'd have these 3 phases. Now we learned that we're moving to the yellow phase. We'll find out more about what that entails 3 days from now. In some ways, is that setting us up for just a nightmare as we rush toward next Friday, only getting guidance on Monday, and hindsight always being 2020, what would have you liked to have seen done differently, if anything, here to make this easier for counties to handle?
Well, the first thing I would have liked the guidance today or even days ago, but that's not the reality of what we're living in. But you know, all along I've been saying to businesses, come up with a plan for whenever we get ready to open, have a written plan. Every business, although not required, we would suggest you have a written plan. So when it comes to the Compliance Enforcement Division, we react to phone calls we get. And so if we get a phone call from somebody complaining, let's just say they see a business and they don't believe they're in compliance, that's what usually happens, is we're getting some kind of a call to the health department. So first thing we do is we call the business and we talk to them and we find out, you know, we ask them about the issue that was brought forward to us and we ask them, do you have a written plan? And then we talk about their plan. And if we need to go out and visit, we do. Sometimes we can take care of it over the phone and say, this is the issue that was brought up to us. And they talk to us about it. And we say, this is how you can fix that issue of noncompliance. And they say, okay, yes, we'll do that. And then we move on and we go on to the next call. And sometimes we need to go out because they need more guidance on site. So that's the way we expect to continue to do this going forward. And so I'm saying to all businesses listening right now, if you don't have a written plan right now, maybe spend some time over the weekend putting together your written plan. Look at the guidances that are on our website already under the business resources. There's a lot of guidance on there that was there for the life-sustaining businesses. It's basically the same type of guidance for you. And put your plan together so that you know what you're going to do come next Friday.
And as you look toward compliance, just one quick follow-up on that, looking for a little clarification. As we look toward these groups of 25 or more, is that just in terms of gathering for events, or would that also apply to businesses if you've got 25-plus employees?
Well, it's supposed to be for any, this is a clarification we need. I mean, it honestly is a clarification. It's certainly for any gatherings. Any gatherings cannot be more than 25 people. But if you've got X number of employees, you know, how many people are allowed in your store? You know, this has been one of my questions that I haven't got a clear answer to. So if you're a very small retail center and, you know, you have 3 to 5 employees, and I mean, you're probably not going to have 25 people coming in on a regular basis, maybe near the holidays or something. But even then, you'd have to limit that, right? But what if you're a huge store, a big center, home goods or something like that, and you certainly probably have 25 or more employees? Are you still allowed to allow 25 people in your store? Are you allowed to less than 25? I mean, you couldn't even open your doors if you had to count your employees. So these are the questions that we don't have answers to yet, and we need to find the answers to those.
So what do you think that means for, say, the mall, where technically you've got different stores, but it's all one building, but people are spaced out? It just seems like there's still a ton of gray areas here. After waiting 2 weeks to try to learn this, still a ton more questions.
I asked outright about the mall, and I was outright told the mall will not be opening. So I will clarify that for them to make sure that that is definitely the case, but that's what I was told. And again, we need clarification on that and so much more. Talk Erie?
Real quick, Gannett University issued a message today that, quote, the emerging signs of transition in the intensive planning and preparations being done here at Gannett had led to this message of our intent to resume face-to-face classes in August. Their start date is August 26th. Obviously, we definitely need to be in the green zone by then. Any comments on any of that?
I think every business, and obviously our universities are a business, has to figure out what their future is and plan for it. And they are probably going to have to adjust along the way depending on what happens here. The best scenario would be that obviously we all do what we need to do, that we have universal masking going on in Erie County, that we have people keeping their social distance throughout the summer months, that we don't see any kind of a huge spike in our numbers, and our universities could resume teaching classes under some very new changes. How do they take care of a dorm situation, the living situation, keeping people 6 feet apart? How do they deal with classroom size? I don't know. Those are all things that they have to figure out within their business model. So you can't sit around and wait until you get the green light go. You have to plan. So the fact that they're planning is a good thing. I would say our universities also, and I've talked to some of our university presidents, that they need to also figure out how they would do their contact tracing, because we would not have the capacity at the Erie County Department of Health to do contact tracing on students if the students come back in the fall. So we would need the universities through their own health services to learn and know how to do contact tracing and to be ready to do that if they have students coming back. That's just one example of some changes that they would need to make, and they would need to understand those kind of things going forward. So lots and lots of work to do in the next months ahead, as you know. So we'll see, but it really is going to take all of us doing the right thing to even be anywhere near being ready to get our university students back into our 4 great universities and our medical school in the fall.
Thanks.
Jet TV.
Yeah. Hi, Kathy. So I know there has been little guidance, but do you know how long the yellow face is anticipated to last? How long? Any thoughts, opinions? Do you know anything in that nature?
I have no idea. We're lucky to be here. There's a lot of counties who want to be in yellow right now and aren't. So let's be grateful for where we're at, and let's work hard to do really well in the yellow phase so we don't have to go back to the red, and then we'll see when we can get to green.
And then just to follow up, is it a little frustrating, I guess, being the county executive and having such little guidance released from the Commonwealth so far?
I thought you were going to just leave it at, is it frustrating being the county executive? But anyway, it is frustrating. Sometimes, I've said this for a long time now, when it comes to issues within our county, we have to figure it out ourselves many, many times. We look to the federal government, we look to the state government for help with figuring things out, but I think that our community decided a number of years back, maybe 5-6 years back, that, we got to solve our own problems. We got to do it right here. And, it'd be great if I could somehow protect Erie County and put us in a cocoon, right? And just have our problems to deal with. But we know that we're going to be dealing with people coming from other places to our community, especially as the summer months come down. We know that people are antsy to get out and do what they want to do. And we know that even with the best of guidelines from the state, even if they were ready with everything today or a week ago, it still all depends on the people who live here and the people who come and visit here, because we don't have any other tools except for everyone to do as best that they can to stop the spread of COVID-19. We need people to wear masks when they're out. We need people to wash their hands frequently. We need people to stay physically distant from those that they don't live with. And those are hard things to do. They're not comfortable. They're not normal. So even with the best of guidance, it really comes down to each one of us and our individual responsibility. And what are we doing to collectively try to keep the spread of COVID-19 down here and help us to get to a better place until someday we have a vaccine to offer to people in this community. And I can't say it in any more succinctly than that it comes down to all of us.
Thanks.
Erie Times News, do you have any last questions?
Sure. I know that there's still a little uncertainty about how the 25 people or more rule will affect businesses, but I just wanted to be clear on other rules for businesses that can open next week. Masking requirements and staying 6 feet apart will still be required for both customers and employees. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so we are asking every business to put a sign on their front door, very, very visible, that basically says that masking is required. We've had some great businesses do this already. It's really important that businesses let their customers know you cannot come in without a mask. And then when they get in your establishment, a lot of businesses have put X's with tape on the floor, so when people come in, they know how far away they need to stay from the other customers that are in that building. So those are the kind of things that we need to happen at every single business. And businesses have to be responsible for this. So not only is it up to the residents of our community, but it's also up to the businesses. If they want to stay open, they have to follow the guidelines and help all of us stay safer here.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, it is a big day for Erie County, moving to a yellow phase next Friday. Not yet. We are still under the stay-at-home order for one more week until midnight next Thursday night, Friday morning. And then those businesses that are allowed to will be able to reopen. And if you're not ready to reopen, if you don't have these things in place, then don't reopen until you're ready. And then once we're out there, all of us out there going to these establishments, it's important for us to feel comfortable with the businesses that we're going into, that we feel safe. I recommend that you each take your own personal safety when it comes to this virus into your own hands, and the safety of that of your family, your friends, your loved ones. And if we all do that, again, I think we will come through this really well. And I just want to assure you that Erie County government and the Erie County Department of Health in particular, and public safety, that we are ready to do the work that's needed to keep you safe going forward. So be our partner in this, as you have been for the last 7+ weeks, and help us make this happen, that we are successful in the yellow phase. So in the meantime, I'm asking you for one more week to stay home, to stay safe, and to stay calm. Thank you.